Alright guys, it's your old pal CHH here again. Today we're talking about yet another Unmade Halloween sequel. Now, the thing that sucks about this is reading how cool some of these were, and the fact that we just never got them. We're sticking back in the late 80s for what could have been the next Halloween 4. And this was going to be what would be known as basically the MTV Halloween 4. It was going to be big city, late 80s fashion. They were going to get some rock bands involved. It was going to be very much like what Dream Warriors or Dream Master would have been. It would have been in line with that sort of competition and that sort of aesthetic, which to me sounds fantastic. But there were a number of things that caused this to take a bath. So let's get right into it. So again, if you remember the last one we did talking about what John Carpenter's Halloween 4 would have been, we learned that John and Deborah were like, adios, pay us, take our interest, we're out of here. So Akkad was now in charge of getting this movie made, and he was going to fund the film himself along with getting other investors and other people to aid him in that task. So after this, Trancas International launched a open call. Make your pitch for Halloween 4, send in your screenplays, send in your treatments, we will look them over. They got a ton of them. I mean a ton of them. Hundreds of them. Only a few of them got callbacks, and even less of them got their scripts purchased. One thing we learned from the Freddy vs. Jason episodes is that you have to buy these scripts to do anything with them beforehand. So when they really liked the script, they'd have to purchase it from the screenwriters, but you don't want to do that unless you're really in love with the script and really want to make it happen. But we're going to see some missteps that would cause this one to fall by the wayside. One of the biggest ones is, well, you'll see. Many screenwriters were entered, few received callbacks, and even fewer had their screenplays purchased. One draft that did get picked up, though, was one from the writing team of Daniel Kennel and Mark Allen Medina. This script was dated October of 1987. This H4 has never been publicly acknowledged. So obviously we're hearing about this now, and I'm reading this from the book Taking Shape 2, which I can't recommend enough. But there are many screenplays that never got into the documentaries, that never got into other books in the past, so this is the first time I've ever read about this, and I'm hoping this is going to be the first time you've ever heard about this Halloween 4 screenplay, because I personally really freaking liked it. Now here's the story of what this draft was. We open with a recap of Halloween 2. We learned that both Loomis and Michael survived that fiery explosion. Both are flown to hospitals in Chicago via helicopters. The medics fail to notice that Michael's worn safety cables were on his stretcher. These cables break over Lake Michigan, and Michael plummets into the water. Talk about one hell of a shot. So can you imagine this helicopter airlifting Michael Myers, putting him into this copter, the safety cables on his stretcher break, and he slides right off of the side into Lake Michigan. Can you imagine the imagery of seeing that body just boom, right into the water? That would have been one hell of a shot. Could have been hokey, but in my mind, with the music and everything, it was really cool. His body was then never recovered, and the opening shot shows a neglected Michael Myers tombstone with a date of 1957 to 1978. Now, which characters are going to be involved with this Halloween 4 screenplay? That's a great question. Let's read on. Laurie Strode is now living as Laurie Jameson in Chicago with her husband and daughter Steffi. Laurie is living a successful life as an editor of a high-profile magazine, and she's in a high-rise office. She seemingly has it all and has moved on. But as Halloween approaches, Laurie is prepping a spread on a big rock star she's going to be doing. Now, it's an undisclosed name for the rock star, maybe because they either were going to try to get an actual rock star from that decade or a fake rock star. We didn't know that yet. Despite having it all, Laurie is starting to have nightmares and flashbacks semi-regularly. When she needs consultation, she visits her psychiatrist. Who is that psychiatrist, you asked? Dr. Loomis, of course. So the fact that we got Laurie and Loomis together and they're intertwined with each other, that's something that I think we always really wanted to see. I know I really wanted to see that because they're really not that connected with the first two movies at all, really. And then by the time H2O rolls around, Donald Pleasance had passed away, so he couldn't be involved. And even in the new movies, Loomis is just mentioned a little bit from Laurie, so we never got to see them together talking with each other, interacting. This would have been a chance for that to happen, and I thought That sounded really freaking cool. After Loomis discusses Lori with one of his fellow doctors, that doctor recommends giving Lori hypnotherapy. Loomis agrees that it's a good idea and decides he's going to do that with her to try to aid in getting rid of these nightmares and visions. This hypnotherapy session goes horribly wrong, not only letting Lori remember the horrifying night, but also the repressed memories of the details that was in fact her brother, Michael Myers. She now lives in complete terror with the fear that he would return. But unbeknownst to them, Michael Myers has arrived. As a mystery, we don't really know how long he'd been in the water or what. They kept it very mysterious. He's just back. He's back from Lake Michigan. Michael travels his way through Chicago, killing the rock star that Lori was set to interview, and steals his car. The vehicle has tinted windows, allowing Michael to stalk in mystery. There's even an amazing shot that they talked about where Michael was in said vehicle and drives right past Laurie Strode on the side of the road, with Laurie having no idea that the shape was in that vehicle. Michael then kills an unsuspecting cop near a theater, and after doing that runs over a group of them, killing 13 people in an insane hit and run. The sun setting on Halloween night, Dr. Loomis and Lori begin to rush home to learn that Myers had already begun to stalk her family. Aunt Heather, who was babysitting the daughter Steffi, is in a massive confrontation with said Michael Myers. Michael then does what could be the coolest kill we never saw, where he takes her hand and shoves it into a garbage disposal, destroying her entire arm and her bleeding out. That is one hell of a late 80s Myers kill. You could say that's a Jason Voorhees type thing, but Jason likes to, you know, slash and dash and stuff like that, and to me this seemed like the perfect Halloween sequel Michael Myers kill, shoving the aunt's hand in the garbage disposal. Oh my god. And the beauty of that kill is it's not necessarily something I think you need to even cut too much of, because you don't need to see the hand getting destroyed in the garbage disposal itself. Just the visual of the hand being in the sink and the sounds and the visuals of her face and the terror. Oh my god, that would have been amazing. The film would culminate in this massive battle in Laurie's backyard. I'm also to assume that Laurie lives in a suburb right near Chicago, meaning she has a backyard. Otherwise, she'd be living in some high-rise. Laurie gets in her husband's car, trying to run Michael over. She's gonna hit a massive electric pole, causing power lines to fall down in her backyard. There's a power line in the swimming pool that will become very crucial to the end of Michael Myers. As this was going on, Dr. Loomis flew back to Haddonfield and exhumed Myers' casket to look for his body to see that it was in fact there, and he saw that the casket was empty. We then as the audience knew that Myers wasn't dead, but we learned for the characters in the movie that the idea of Myers falling out of the helicopter was suppressed and hidden from publicity to avoid massive backlash and fear. So people thought Myers was in fact dead and buried in that casket under that tombstone. But Loomis finds out, boom, oh my god, he's not there. He never was buried. And that's where, you know, all this is culminating. So as we learn about Myers being with Aunt Heather and this battle ensuing, we're also learning that the characters know, oh my god, he wasn't buried. This sounds like a great culmination to me. I freaking love it so far. And right as Loomis shows up, he shoots Myers. He falls into the swimming pool, all while the city is getting the electric back on. Myers is beginning to try to climb out of the pool, and as soon as he's almost out, the electric comes back on. That power line's in the pool, shocks Michael to smithereens. There's a fiery explosion. There's electricity, voltage all around him. Michael is shocked to smithereens. That is how we ended Michael Myers. The ending of the film shows the tombstone reading 1957 to 1988. Now Myers' body was then buried, and this was going to be the end of the character. To me, this sounded like a good movie. There were also talks about putting a lot of the 80s MTV flair in there, which is why we're interviewing a rock star. They were seemingly going to be getting a band to have like a theme, the way Dokken was with Dream Warriors and Alice Cooper did Man Behind the Mask for Friday the 13th. They were seemingly going to get an act to do a song for Halloween. What band they would have gotten, I don't know, but it all sounds really cool to me. You could have gotten maybe a heavy metal band, maybe like Anthrax, or you could have gotten maybe White Lion or some other band to do a killer song for this late 80s MTV Halloween film that would have lived on in the pantheon till this day, as we know. That song would be played by horror fans every day the way Man Behind the Mask and Dream Warriors is. So you're probably wondering what happened to this Halloween? Why didn't this one get made? You already know it. Akkad buys the script, likes it a lot, does some work with the writers on it, fine-tunes it. approaches Jamie Lee Curtis to do it, and she says, absolutely not. Not interested. She's making a fish called Wanda at this point. She's doing big things in her career outside of horror. Why Mustafa thought she would come back, I don't know. She made it very public. She was done with horror. She didn't want to do any horror movies after this. So why did we waste the resources with this? I don't know. But what they did do was hopeful. Akkad told the writers, look, I really like your guys' screenplay, but she doesn't want to do it. So then the two writers decided, okay, let's try to take her arc and character arc and move it around. They kind of pressed it onto the Aunt Heather, and she's the one dealing with the trauma and this and that and knowing what her sister went through, and maybe they were going to have Laurie Strode be dead or a runaway or she's in a mental hospital. We don't really know. But they were trying to rewrite dialogue, move scenes to other characters and make it part of their arc. So the Aunt Heather became the big part of that. But ultimately, as those screenwrites were updating that draft, Akkad became less and less hopeful and less optimistic about this story for mostly the reason of losing Jamie Lee Curtis in this. They also talked about a possible recasting, but Akkad knew, oh my god, if we try to recast this, it's going to be a nightmare. So they did not recast Laurie Strode. So ultimately, this script would be set aside and not used. So we lost some money and resources on this, and it's really a shame because I do think that having that late 80s MTV Halloween would have been something really awesome that we just never got. And you know, it's a shame. It's a shame. They did utilize some elements from this screenplay with what we would see with the film, where Loomis really becomes the protector of the daughter of Laurie, which is what happened in Halloween 4 as well. So there were elements that were used from the screenplay that were brought over to the Allen screenplay that got made. But yeah, this one was a real bummer for me. I really like the idea of the big city, Windy City, Chicago Halloween film with a hair metal band being involved, making a theme for the movie. And yeah, this is one that I was bummed to read about. It sucks when I read about scripts that I really like that we didn't get made. With Freddy vs. Jason, we read about a lot of them that just were bad. But this is one I was down for. But how do you feel about the Windy City Halloween film? Are you into it? Do you like the idea of Myers getting dropped into the lake because of faulty cables on the helicopter, and then Myers just coming back mysteriously? Or do you like the Halloween 4 we got? I love the Halloween 4 we got, but this one sounded pretty cool to me. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around. We'll be talking about more unmade Halloween sequels down the road. Take care. I want to say thanks to all my amazing Patreon supporters who make Planet CHH possible. For behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and more, you can subscribe for as little as $1 a month.